Alrighty guys, so it has officially been a minute since I made videos here on the channel, but if you guys remember from my previous video, we are officially here in LA at USC at the School of Cinematic Arts studying my master's in film production, which I've been thoroughly enjoying, and especially just being able to get to know my cohort and my classmates has been really nice, and so far I've been thoroughly enjoying the program. But today is the last day before spring break, so I thought why not get back into making videos for you guys. But in today's video, I want to talk about the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5090, especially how it's been built for creators in mind with their new media engine for encoding and decoding. So let's start off the video. Alrighty guys, so today is February 22nd, and the reason why I am filming today and making this video is that I might potentially be getting my hands on the latest graphic card made by NVIDIA, the RTX 5090. Literally, there is a huge reason why I want to upgrade to the RTX 5090, especially as a video editor and as a content creator, is because the 5090 has a built-in new media engine that can actually decode and encode a lot of new codecs like 10-bit 422, which is obviously a very popular codec, which is like what we can record on the Sony FX3, the Canon C80 back there, the Canon C400. Like there's a ton of cameras that not only I own, but a lot of people own that shoot in 10-bit 422, since that's probably like one of the most popular codecs since 2020, since a lot of the newer cameras are shooting 10-bit 422. So there's a huge reason why I want to get my hands on the RTX 5090. However, for those who know, with the latest 50 series, it has been impossible to get our hands on this card. But yeah, hopefully today I'll be able to meet up with a buyer, get the 5090, take it home for spring break, and yeah, just do some tests with video editing and just showcasing to you guys, is the 50 series worth it? And especially for content creators, is this the time to upgrade? So that's definitely the biggest question that I want to answer for you guys. Alrighty guys, so we just got our hands on the NVIDIA RTX 5090. I've been waiting to get my hands on this card for such a long time, and I'm so glad that I finally did. Luckily, the person that I met up with to get the RTX 5090 is giving it to me for a pretty reasonable price, and I'm very happy about it. So definitely very excited to put this into my new PC, and pretty much we're going to open it up together and see how the card looks. So let's get into it. And there it is. Inspired by gamers, built by NVIDIA. There we go. That was fresh. Very clean. It's got that nice dark metal color to it, and honestly I really like the Founders Edition just because it's pretty much like the lightest and the smallest card that you can get, because obviously the partner cards are like way more bigger and just way more pricier. So obviously the 5090 is going to be really cool, and it's really cool because it can fit into small form factor builds. So especially for those that like small form factor builds, you can easily put a 5090 into your PC, so definitely comes in handy. So you want to check it out? Hold it.
Yeah.
Right.
How's it going?
Yep.
This thing is sick.
Yeah.
It's got premium materials, you know?
Yep.
The color is awesome.
Thank you so much for the 5090.
Of course. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Let me know how it runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun.
Alrighty guys, so we're finally back. The seller did come all the way from Irvine to downtown LA, which is where I'm at. So very thankful that the seller was able to make out the trip to come here. But we finally have the RTX 5090 in our possession. Right here we have the box. Alrighty guys, so today is in fact March 14th, 3 days until my birthday, turning 23 on the 17th. Kind of feels unreal. But pretty much we just completed our first half of the semester from January 13th until March 13th. Oh wow, that's actually kind of crazy. It's like literally the same day, pretty much flying back. So I'll check in with you guys when we're back in Sac. Alrighty guys, so we are officially back here in Folsom, Sacramento, pretty much back home. Very happy to be here. But the other thing that I forgot to mention is that I actually did pick up another 5090 even before I got the Founders Edition 5090, and that is in fact the ASUS Astral 5090 overclocked edition. Pretty much I mainly got the Astral just for review, and that's why I still went out and got an RTX 5090 Founders Edition. So I thought in today's video, not only can we do an RTX 5090 review, but we can do a comparison video between the Founders Edition card and the Astral card and see whether or not it's worth going for the overclocked edition card, or if you're perfectly fine saving your money and getting a Founders Edition cards. Alrighty guys, we are officially back in the studio, and it has been a minute since I made videos here, and also it's just been a minute since I made videos for you guys here on the channel. Been quite a few months. I've definitely missed being at home and being able to shoot in the studio room, which honestly I love so much, and of course filming on the Canon C400, which I haven't seen in a minute, so it's just nice to kind of get back into the studio and start filming again. But of course, focusing on today's video, we are talking about upgrading to the NVIDIA RTX 5090. So for those that watched my most recent video on my PC build, building with the Intel Core Ultra 9 285K, you guys know that I did upgrade my RTX 3090 to what we have right here, which is the ASUS ROG Strix White Edition RTX 4090 overclocked. and this card has been really nice to work with. I will say, for those who have upgraded from the RTX 3090 to a 4090, and especially just for me upgrading, personally, I didn't really see that much performance gains going from the 3090 to the 4090, especially when it comes to video editing, mainly just because I believe that the media engine for hardware decoding and encoding has pretty much stayed the same. They haven't really made any changes to hardware decoding and encoding, but I got really excited when they finally announced the NVIDIA RTX 5090, especially for content creators and video editors, because now they did create a new media engine for their graphic card, which can finally handle 422 video. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware how important that is, but especially both with the 30 series and 40 series, and obviously cards before, their GPUs did not natively support 422 video, which really was a bummer, because most modern day cameras since 2020, especially cameras like the Canon R5 and the Sony a7S III, the main codec that a lot of these cameras start recording in is in fact 10-bit 422. So obviously having 422 subsampling is really, really important. Now, CPUs such as Intel 12th Gen and above did create a new media engine that can actually natively decode and encode 10-bit 422 and just 422 in general. So especially if you are a Intel-based user working, whether it's on a laptop or a desktop processor, if you are working with 10-bit 422 video, it is extremely smooth to play it back and to edit in Premiere Pro or DaVinci Resolve. And it's also the same thing with the Apple M series line of chips ever since the M1 came out with their M1 Pro and their M1 Max. And of course now, I mean, we're on the M4 Max and the M4 Pro, but especially with Apple Silicon, it also has the media engine to natively decode and encode 422. So both Intel and Apple so far have been the only companies to really have that media engine that can handle 10-bit 422. But finally, in 2025, NVIDIA is releasing that new media engine for their 50 series, and I'm sure for their newer generations coming forward, to actually handle 422 subsampling. I did a couple tests because obviously I want to compare it to the 5090s and really just see the performance uplift that we do have with the 4090 compared to the 5090s. So definitely very excited in that vertical. But let's get the 4090 out of the way and of course move on to the 5090s. Alright, so first up is none other than the RTX 5090 Founders Edition card. And I will say, being able to see this card in person is actually insane, just because of how small this thing is. When Jensen, the CEO of NVIDIA, was actually holding the RTX 5090 for a brief moment, I did not think that he was holding the 5090. I thought he was holding like the 5070 or the 5080. But then when they showed the 5090 on screen, and then like when he showed the card again, I was like, wait a minute, that's the 5090? That's a flagship card? It looks so small, especially when you compare it to like a 4090. Like straight up right here, we do have the ASUS ROG Strix 4090 overclocked white edition card, and just literally when you put it right next to the 5090 Founders Edition, like you guys can just tell the difference in its size. Like it is absolutely insane of just how much smaller and also just how much lighter it is, because when you hold this thing, it almost feels like you're holding a console. So when it came to unboxing the ASUS Astral RTX 5090, obviously it's a much more premium unboxing. Like you are getting quite a few more things. It's kind of nice because it does come with a little keycap that's actually an ASUS graphic card. Like literally, it's kind of cool because you can put it on your shift key and you can actually just use it as a keycap. But of course, once we take out the graphic card from the box, you guys can see it in my hand. This thing is nothing but an utter behemoth card. The 5090 Founders Edition only has 2 fans on the bottom, whereas with the Astral, literally it has the 3 fans that are similar to the RTX 4090 ROG Strix, but of course the biggest difference is that we are getting a fan on the back, which means that this thing does generate a lot of heat, and of course ASUS has taken that into account and just created an extra fan on the back so that way you can get better airflow through your GPU. So we are going to plug both of these GPUs into my PC, and we're going to do a bunch of tests when it comes to video editing, Blender, 3D Mark, just doing a bunch of benchmarks and just seeing how well they perform for content creators and video editors. So let us get into this review. We did some tests between the ASUS ROG Strix 4090, Astral 5090, and the Founders Edition 5090, and we definitely got some pretty interesting results. So obviously you guys saw the playback and the timeline skimming through in both Premiere Pro and DaVinci, and of course when it comes to all different types of codecs and resolutions that we played around between Canon RAW, Sony footage, 10x422, Airy Raw, Blackmagic Raw. Again, all of these codecs and these resolutions play extremely well, especially given the fact that we are working with really heavy file sizes, especially even things like the Canon R5C 12-bit 8K RAW. Like, it definitely plays significantly better on the 5090 compared to the 4090, which is really a huge bonus. If you are working in DaVinci Resolve, I will say the 4090 still does well with 12-bit 8K RAW, but especially in Premiere, it definitely kind of struggles a bit. Whereas with the 5090, it doesn't struggle as much in Premiere, and of course it still plays flawlessly in DaVinci Resolve with 0 drop frames. So again, working with those heavy codecs, especially that R5C codec, is kind of a nuisance to work with, but of course these GPUs can handle it without any issues. But we will talk about some of the benchmarks and the render times that we got between the Rogue Strix, Founders Edition, and the Astral. So when it comes to the render times of Apple ProRes on the RTX 4090, Founders Edition 5090, and Astral, when it comes to the Strix 4090, we got a total export time of 15 minutes and 47 seconds. On the Founders Edition 5090, we got a total time of 16 minutes and 10 seconds, which means that the RTX 4090 by ASUS is relatively slightly faster in Apple ProRes export compared to the Founders Edition 5090, and I feel like that could be because it has a larger cooler, so obviously it's cooling and it's a bit more efficient compared to the FE because it's a slimmer card, but it's still also processing a lot within those codecs. So yeah, the 4090 did score a little bit faster compared to the Founders Edition when it came to exporting in ProRes. And then for the Astral, we got a total export time of 15 minutes and 13 seconds. So the Astral is in fact like 30 seconds faster than the RTX 4090, but again, all the scores are still relatively close to each other, so there's no like major outlier, but it is kind of impressive that the 4090 was relatively a bit faster than the Founders Edition 5090. But that all kind of switches up when we go to HEVC and H.265 exporting, because when it comes to the export times for HEVC H.265 for the 4090, we got a total of 6 minutes flat, whereas with HEVC on the Founders Edition 5090, it was a total of 5 minutes and 7 seconds. So pretty much almost a full minute faster on the Founders Edition compared to the Strix RTX 4090. And then with the Astral, we're getting 5 minutes flat. So pretty much exactly 1 minute faster on the Astral 5090 compared to the Strix 4090, whereas it's 5 minutes and 7 seconds on the FE. So pretty much relatively the same time as the Astral, just a little bit delayed, but still pretty much relatively the same performance. So when we're comparing the 4090 to the 5090s, obviously it's relatively the same speed when it comes to export time, but a little slower in HEVC. But especially comparing the Founders Edition 5090 by NVIDIA, comparing it to the ASUS Astral RTX 5090, yeah, the Astral is slightly faster than the Founders Edition, which I feel like isn't like a big shocking revelation, just given that it is an overclock card, and of course it has a much chunkier cooler, so obviously heat dissipates a lot faster and better in the Astral compared to the Founders Edition card. But now here comes the interesting test. So we did some testing between all three cards, between the RTX 4090 and both 5090s in 3D Mark. We did the Steel Nomad test, which is pretty much like an overall graphic test just to see how good your PC is for gaming. Obviously it doesn't really apply to video editors and content creators, but I might as well just run the test just to see how it performs in gaming. When it comes to the scores that we got in 3D Mark, we got relatively 9700 with the Rogue Strix 4090. When it comes to the Astral scored 12,000 something. I don't remember the other numbers, but it was relatively in the 12,000 range when it came to its benchmark score. Now the craziest part is that when it came to testing the Founders Edition within 3D Mark, doing the Steel Nomad test for graphic performance, the GPU scored 14,000. So literally 2,000 more points with the Founders Edition card compared to the Astral card. And it was, I believe, 10 frames per second faster when it came to playing back the video or playing back the graphic test in the Founders Edition card compared to the Astral, because I think the Astral got an average FPS of 129 frames per second, whereas the average FPS on the Founders Edition was roughly 140 frames per second. And then we did some benchmarks on Blender, and the scores were pretty interesting. So when it came between the RTX 4090 to the 5090s, it was relatively 2,000 points less compared to the 5090. So obviously it makes sense between a generational leap in performance. But between the Founders Edition and the Astral card, the Astral I believe was 200 points more than the Founders Edition card. It is still very impressive that given the fact that the FE is not only a much smaller card, much slimmer, not as beefy with a cooler compared to the Astral, and of course the price difference between a $3,500 card to a $2,000 card, literally like $1,500 more for an Astral compared to an FE card, like it kind of doesn't make sense to spend up $1,500 more on an Astral card. My overall thoughts on the RTX 5090 between the FE and the Astral is that I feel like for the first time in a while, like in a true while, I don't see myself needing to upgrade for quite some years. Like unless, you know, newer cameras, newer cinema cameras come out with like newer codecs, that's gonna be the standard. Like if we're working with like 12-bit 444 or like harder raw files to decode and encode or things like that, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see myself saying that I want to upgrade to a newer graphic card. And I will say, if you can't make up the means or if you can't afford going for a 5090, I definitely look into a 5070 or a 5080 because pretty much any 50 series card is going to carry pretty much the same media engine. The only real difference between all of the cards are just going to come down to its VRAM, because obviously the 5080 is a 16 gig VRAM card, whereas the 5090 is a 32 gigabyte VRAM card. So that's kind of like the biggest difference between you know, the 5080 and the 5090. But again, because of that new media engine, you should be good with a 5080 for decoding and encoding these things. But definitely if you are working with 8K files and 12K files, you want to have a graphic card with a minimum of 24 gigs of VRAM. And that is something where, you know, even if you have a 3090 or 4090, you should be fine editing 8K footage. Obviously, it's not going to be playing as smooth as a 50 series card because it does have 32 gigs of VRAM. I feel like having 32 gigs of VRAM kind of jumps over that barrier where your card doesn't need to worry about having just enough memory to, you know, to work with 8K RAW. But with that, that is going to do for us on today's video, comparing the NVIDIA RTX 5090 Founders Edition to the Astral RTX 5090 and testing out the difference between an overclocked AIB to a stock Founders Edition card made by NVIDIA. And again, so far I've been enjoying these cards. I'm going to be excited keeping my hands on the Founders Edition card, going to be selling off my 4090 and of course returning the Astral. So that is my plan between all three graphic cards. But if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you guys want to see me do more tests with these cards, definitely let me know down in the description below. If there's any aspect that you guys think I didn't cover enough, whether it's video editing, 3D work, gaming, whatever it is, let me know down in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to respond to you guys there. And yeah, that is going to do for us on today's video. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next video, which should be shortly. So I'll see you guys then. Take it easy. Peace.